Temple of Divine. I am your guide, High Priestess Makita, and I am so excited for you for this month. You are watching live on WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the world, streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and other top social media channels. Do not forget to like, share, comment, and click on notifications so that you will not miss a single episode that happens here every Friday at 2 p.m. So, what we're going to do is we're going to do, as usual, go through kind of the plan for today, and then we will jump into the content. So, as you know, as we talked about in the pre-launch series, it is officially Sex Appreciation Month. So, get excited with we have some great guests for you this month, and I also have some great content and some things that I think you will really be excited about, and it'll help you to get free. So this first, we got four segments. The first segment, we're going to kind of do a recap of the two pre-launch shows, just to kind of set the tone for this month, as well as so you can get the most out of the information. The second one, we're going to talk about the history of sex in the church. Just some very interesting, kind of fascinating aspects of sex and church and religion, and how it relates to you, and many of the views and opinions that you may have about sex that may be holding you back. So we're going to have a little fun with that. And then the third segment is kind of our open box segment, where we're going to talk about, we have some good information about some events that are going on that give you kind of content on that, as well as we have an open box. We'll share a product with you that will help you with your journey through discovering yourself. And finally, we have Ask Me Anything, and that is when you can call in here and talk to me, High Priestess Makita, and ask me any questions, not just about the content for today, but any questions that you have whatsoever. So, and to do that, you want to call into 313 355 6018. 313 355 6018 to talk to me. So, the first thing we want to do is kind of set the stage. It is Sex Appreciation Month. And so I always want to kind of go back and make sure that we level set. Why are we talking about sex, High Priestess Makita? Why is this important? Why do I care? Why do some people not care? So the first thing is, the purpose of this show, Temple of Divine, is to help you to explore, discover, and celebrate the divine in you. But what I found is that in having conversations about spiritual awakening and having conversations about divine in you, is that many people just don't even make that connection that there is divinity inside of you. So, one of the simplest ways and the most universal topics that we can touch on to help you to develop an appreciation for the divine in you is sex. Because there's no other place, in my opinion, where there is more confusion, negativity, demonization, quite frankly, than in the area of sex. So I thought this is a really good topic for us to talk about because of the way it affects your energy. So the other kind of background information you need to really be able to take advantage of the content that I'm sharing with you today is that about the map of consciousness. I talk about this every week because you need to really kind of understand it a little bit more. And what I'm going to add this week is show notes. So the links for all the information that we're going through today, the research that I've done, will be available for you, including the map of consciousness, so you can really begin to connect with why it's important. So as a review on the map of consciousness, Dr. David Hawkins is a person who did some work, and he has several books, but the one called Power versus Force is where he talks about how there are certain emotions that strengthen you and there are certain emotions that weaken you. And so at the bottom, so there's this map of consciousness. It starts with shame at the very bottom, and at the very top is enlightenment. So enlightenment would be like where you're Jesus, Buddha, Shiva. Those people would be at the top level, and shame, guilt, fear, those are at the bottom. And so when I said the word shame, I'm sure you maybe have made the connection that shame is one that really is prevalent in the area of sex. And so, what happens if you are steeped kind of in that lower level of the map of consciousness, then you're unable to elevate yourself to higher levels of spirituality. So, not everyone wants to experience higher levels of spirituality. There will be some people who will look at the topic information and go, I'm good. I don't need any other information about sex. In fact, I don't even care. In fact, I don't have any kind of affiliation whatsoever, and I don't really care, which is cool because this show's not for you. But there'll be people on the other end of the spectrum who go, oh, no, 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 I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. No, thank you. I'm good. Not for you either. But there are people like you who are seeking information, are seeking just truth around the topic of sex because we all know it exists. It is the most powerful energy that we have. And so it really is a little bit ludicrous that we don't have more of an appreciation for what sex is and our sexuality and the different things that we like and we don't like. It really is kind of the result or the outcome of a lot of activities that were really based on human intervention and seeking to control and seeking to really manage behavior of the masses. So what we want to do in this series, what I hope that I can do is, I'm not, a medical professional, a psychological professional, or anything like that. You may have beliefs and issues and challenges that go way, way deeper than what we're going to cover here. And for that, I suggest you seek professional help. But what I hope to do in this series is to just open a little bitty hole in so that you can see the light of sexuality to shine through for you, okay? So that you can kind of release yourself from the guilt and the shame and the fear that you've experienced in the past. And here's what's going to happen for you if you're able to do that. So if you're successful in being able to kind of work through those beliefs that cause you to have fear, or even sometimes it could be traumas that cause you to have fear and to have shame and guilt around your sexuality, then your subconscious will stop thinking about it and stop thinking about those bad things, and it will begin to open up and serve up to you different experiences that will help you kind of crack open a little bit more. Like, you have to think of it like you're becoming. And so being free and letting that energy kind of just rest is going to open you up so that your spirit can open up, your subconscious can kind of deal with those emotions and let them dissipate. And then you can bloom and become the person that you are becoming and not be encumbered by those old beliefs and patterns that were established way, way, way long ago. Okay, so the other thing I want to do real quick, hopefully that helps you kind of set the tone for what to expect. My intention, again, is to help you to see a different perspective so you can get free and begin to explore yourself and enjoy and love yourself much, much more. So the other thing we want to talk about along those lines is this kind of the shows that we have lined up for you for this month. So today we're going to talk about history of sex in the church. And it's really interesting because a lot of, and in fact, most of kind of the prohibitions and the things that we have as limitations in the area of sex really began in the church and in the religious environment, believe it or not. So we'll talk about that today. And then next Friday, Friday the 13th, is Freaky Friday. So we're going to be talking about freaks, fetishes, and whips. Oh my. And we have a very special guest for next week. Then we're going to have Miss Kalibi the Artist Harris, who is going to help us with our alter ego and how we can incorporate these types of toys, and we're going to talk about the fetishes and things like that, so you can understand kind of what they even are and why it's okay for you to have them if you do. But we're gonna sift through those beliefs, and we're gonna have a lot of fun on that. It's actually Friday the 13th is a great day for women. It's always everything. It's almost like you're in opposite world. Everything that you think is bad. If you really dig into the history and the detail of it, you'll find that it's kind of flipped. But we'll get into that. And then the week after that, we're going to have Noise and Toys with Miss Charnita Parker. And Miss Charnita Parker is going to bring us more toys. And we're going to talk about self pleasuring. We're going to talk about the different toys, their uses, and how they can benefit you and your relationship. So that should be a fun one as well. And then finally, we'll end up the month on the topic of to orgasm or not to orgasm. And so, what we're talking about there is you can have an orgasm, of course, but you can also choose to not have an orgasm. And you can choose to redirect that sexual energy into other pursuits and activities. And so we're going to talk with that in a little bit more detail. And so get excited about that. And then finally, we'll culminate the whole month, the Sexual Appreciation Month, with the Sex is Sacred mini festival on Sunday, the 29th of August, right here at WJZZ Cool TV headquarters in the backyard. So, again, if you have any questions at all, then definitely reach out on WJZZ. WJZ official. Oh wait, don't let me mess it up. I'll give it to you. I'll put it in the show notes where you need to contact. But you can ask a question right now. You can call at 313-355-6018 and let me know your name, and then we'll figure out. I'll get you the details. So, with that, I just wanted to let you know that you are watching Temple of the Divine, broadcasting live to you on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and other top social media stations. We invite you to like, comment, share, click notifications, send your friends, share, so that you can share the information with everyone that it matters to, and maybe some people that it doesn't matter to. Again, you're watching WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the world. Okay, now let's get into the content. So, I have learned more about the history of sex and church in the last the last probably 60 days than I've ever known in my life. And I will tell you that I knew that there were things that didn't make sense, but it was not until I really began to look into kind of where these things originated that I realized how that behavior of sex, one, made a lot of people very uncomfortable, and two, has been the subject of much manipulation and much control to control the behaviors, because it is in fact the strongest energy that we have. So the first thing to note is that, or the first kind of perspective, is to keep in mind that as a human being, we are mammals, and there are other animals in the world, and nothing in the nature of what we do, you wouldn't look at, animals in the wild and say, and see them having sex and go, oh, that's horrible. That should be private. Why are they doing that? You wouldn't actually do that. You would just look at it and go, oh, they're mating. It's mating season. It's cool. Okay, she's calling her partner. But because we're higher level beings, I don't know if that's why or not, then we have a tendency to think too much. You have that cerebral cortex up there, and all of a sudden everything is, kind of weird. But I want you to keep the perspective as I talk through these things that it's natural. It's your natural state of being is to be a sexual creature, and that sexual energy is your powerful energy. And there's things that you can do once you understand that and accept yourself. So the first thing that I want to talk about is that, or I think one of the more significant impacts of sexuality in the church has been from the Jewish Christian background. So the roots, I'm just going to read this. The roots of the Judeo-Christian sexual prohibitions, as well as the sexual prohibitions of religions such as Islam, spring from Jewish tribal law. So, um, the Jewish tribal law, it was kind of like women at that time were considered property. And so, um, with any property, you want to seek to control your investment and make sure that things are handled properly. So, a lot of what was going on was from that perspective of protecting your property. And then we add into that um, a person by the name of St. Augustine who had influence. And St. Augustine had, in addition to influence, also had quite a few hangups. And so when someone has influence and hangups, then they get to influence behavior, they get to influence rules and guidelines, and people, begin to behave in those ways. And so I'm going to share with you about St. Augustine and how St. Augustine's perspectives influence sex as we know, or the sexual prohibitions as we know them today. Okay? So let me go into. Oh, that's more fun. I'm going to talk about that. That's more fun. Okay. So I have to find my notes here. Hang with me for 1 second. There were so many things that were happening after this. I'm looking at my notes for later on, and they're more fun because we're talking about the first religious persecution and all that stuff. But I'm trying to get to my St. Augustine section, and I am not seeing it. Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about kind of the history around the time of St. Augustine. So the reason why, there were two kind of primary reasons why initially there were guidelines that were placed around sex, particularly as they related to women. One is that earlier, in the earlier centuries, there just wasn't enough. There wasn't a lot of cleanliness, so there were a lot of diseases, and there were a lot of other things that were happening that made engaging in sexual activity, quite frankly, dangerous. So it was, so that was driving some of the restrictions in terms of, who can have sex, whether or not you should enjoy sex, whether or not you shouldn't enjoy sex, because it was designed to kind of deter that behavior. And really, that sexual behavior is fairly new, because and it's really the freedoms around it really did, kind of started kicking into gear like in really 1960s. But even before that, people were beginning to discover more and more, because pre-birth control, there was a kind of a drive to want to minimize sexual activity, because if you were married and you were having sex, you could literally have a baby every year. And there's some families that, that I read about had like 25 kids, right? And so there's only so many kids you need to work in the farm, and after that, it just gets to be problematic. So there were some restrictions in terms. They had restrictions in terms of the number of times you should have sex, the in terms of frequency, what time of the month, what day of the week. There were all restrictions like that. But the thing to keep in mind is none of this made the act of sex itself as bad. And this is the perception and the belief that I really want to drive home, and that is that none of it was put into place because sex is really bad. There's some reason why sex is bad. The closest thing I found was around masturbation related to men, and that was because they believed that the whole child, or that the human being was in the sperm. And so, and that the woman was just kind of the host to incubate that life into being. And so the actual semen was considered to be, holy and sacred. And so to masturbate and to ejaculate this semen outside of a human body was considered to be sinful. But even that, if you look at it, even that perspective was more towards the value of the semen, but not that sex was wrong, right? Like this perception that certain behaviors are wrong because God's not going to be happy, that perception is what we have to deal with, because none of these rules and laws and things, none of them were because sex in itself were bad. They're because somebody felt like there was some reason why it was bad. So when we look at the diseases, the reason why we said it was bad is because there were just diseases and things that people could get that would kill them, right? That's a good reason to have some type of guideline. But it's not because God is not happy with you because you have sex. Okay? If you are a male who masturbates, okay? Yes, it was considered to be sinful, not because it was going to make God unhappy, but it was because they felt that that particular, you know, byproduct was valuable, and that, it was a sin for you to waste it. It's kind of like, you go over your mom, you're at home and you're a kid and your mom is like, eat everything on your plate, don't waste that. It's kind of like that. It's not, if you have sex in this way, you're going to go to hell. Like, it's not that. And so that's what we're trying to get rid of. The other thing to keep in mind, so those were kind of the two reasons. One, and then behaviorally, if you look back in history, and this is kind of the fun part I want to get to, is that not only is it opposite of what we have now, there was a point in time where it was actually encouraged to have more sex. It was considered worship to have more sex. That in fact, if you weren't having more sex, then you weren't worshiping and you weren't pleasing God. So this whole perspective about sex being dirty or sex being bad and different things like that, all these rules that were put in place, none of it has to do with God not being happy with you. It's more like man looked at a situation and said, oh, we really need to change that because this behavior is not in my personal self-interest. It's like with St. Augustine, oh, we need to change this because this behavior is not in my personal self-interest. So if I were to align the rules and the guidelines of sex that have come up over time, I would put them more in the category of politics than religion and than what God would want. I would actually classify all the different things here as more political than religious. But so what I want to share now is just some of the historic things, and I've shared this before a little bit. We touched on them in the pre-launch shows, but let's just talk a little bit more about some of these areas that I think are quite frankly entertaining. And so let's do it in a story way. So let me tell you about how women used to be heralded. So back in, let me get my date. Do I have my dates right? 1 second here. Because I found this really fascinating. Oh, okay, that's the bacchanals. We're going to talk about this Greek festival that everybody thought was so bad. That was actually the first religious persecution. But let's see. Okay. The first thing is, I'm just going to read this. Okay, I'm just going to read this. So, it was simple not to have sex. Okay? You heard that right? Yes, not to have sex. So, in ancient Babylon, Greek historian Herodotus wrote accounts of a form of worship of the goddess Aphrodite. Now, let's do this in a story. This is what happened. Lean forward, beloved, and let me tell you this story of how women used to have their power and their rite of passage. So, in order to what they're talking about here is the worship of the goddess Aphrodite and the power of women, and how this behavior funded the church. So what would happen is that when a woman would get of age, she would go to the temple and she would sit there and wait until someone, a stranger, it was almost like it was a requirement that a woman of age had to have sex with a stranger. So they would go out and they would sit outside the temple, and they would wait for someone to give them money. So imagine this, okay? So wait a minute, let me think of a place we would go today. Let's go to, okay, let's see, the Belle Isle Art Festival this weekend. Let's talk about, you're out at Belle Isle, okay? This is a perfect place. Okay, so imagine this. You're out at Belle Isle. You know how they have, if you're local into Detroit, we have Belle Isle, and there's a bridge that goes, over to the island. Imagine this. All the women of age are sitting along the edges or the bridge on the side of, the walkway of the bridge. So you're sitting there. It's like you and your girlfriends. You're all sitting there at the edge, and you're just waiting on a man to throw you some money. Now listen, there was no dollar amount. Okay, so the man could just come up, and whoever gave you money, you had to have sex with them. Okay, so it was a rite of passage for a woman to have sex with a stranger, and all they had to do. So brother man walks up to you, and he tosses you a dollar bill. Okay, you would have to go and have sex with him, and then your dollar bill would go into the temple treasury, right? So you were actually so this was a form of income for the church at the time. Is for you to sit there, and it's not even like you were selling it. We're talking about temple prostitution. That's later, but this is not even you selling it. This is like you sitting there waiting on somebody to walk on by, throw you some money. Like, I mean, there was no requirement for amount. So if you got the dollar, you had to do it for the dollar. If you got $10, you did it for $10. If you were lucky, I don't know what they had, right? I didn't look up the dollar amounts, but you did that, and that was the way you funded the church. I think about that. Like, can you get a visual for that? Like, every time I think about that, I'm like, oh, that's hilarious. How much hypocrisy is that? And the thing that I find interesting is how, and I'm not trying to throw shade on churches, okay? I'm just calling it like I've seen it. It's my personal opinion, so you can take it however you want it. But it's like, if you think about the logic of why would you want to suppress the sexuality of people, and the answer is that we do it. It's been done for behavioral, for controlling that, but you really can't control it. You can't control it. People are going to have sex, and they're going to have it whether they feel guilty about it or they don't feel guilty about it, right? So it's like I was listening to a lady the other day talking about how people, everybody in church knows that the people go into the back room and they're doing whatever they're doing, right? And they're having sex, and we know that the different members of society and clergy have sex. We all know about how priests have sex with we just don't even need to go there, right? But fundamentally, why is that happening? Why do you think that people who consider themselves to be religious, consider themselves to love God, consider themselves to be on a spiritual path, why do you think that they would go ahead and engage in sex even though they think it's a sin? Or why how do you think it affects them to have to suppress something that is so natural? And is that really going to help you get closer to God? And I say, no, it's not. Because when you're suppressing something that is naturally you, you're spending more time and attention suppressing it, okay? And the time and attention that you're spending suppressing the desire, suppressing your needs to do it, that's time that you are not working on elevating yourself. You can't be pressing down your strongest spiritual energy and trying to move up the ladder at the same time, right? It's not going to work. That's why the people who are in church are, they're having sex and they're doing all these different things, because you can't suppress it. So why not, let's just talk about it and experience it. It's just like we talk about, and I'm not going to get on a soapbox about sex trafficking and all that kind of stuff. I know it's horrible, it's terrible, but I'm going to tell you that it's my opinion that all of those activities, if we really went kind of deep into them, a lot of it is being driven by this suppression of our sexual energy and by the dirtying of sex by religious establishments. So again, here is an example where before we were using sex to fund the church. And it was no problem. It was something that was accepted at that time. And now we're saying, oh no, you can't do anything. Well, where do you think those people go? If you can't, if you can't express yourself sexually at home with your wife, if you can't express yourself sexually in general, if you don't feel like you can express yourself sexually with yourself because you feel like, you're having problems there, where are you going to go? You're going to go outside to some dark place where they let you be you. That's where you're going to go. And I'm suggesting, why do we have to do that? Why don't we just accept that it's okay and begin to have the conversations and explore those things that are really designed to help us to express our sexuality? So, before I go on, you are watching Temple of Divine, streaming live to you on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and other top social media platforms. And you are watching Wjzz Cool TV, the coolest station in the world. And I am your guide, High Priestess Makita, here to help you to explore, discover, and celebrate the divine in you. So, we're going to go to our open box segment real quick, and then we'll get back into the content and talk about some more historically different activities that were church-based that relate to sex that we now can see is definitely different. So, first of all is just a reminder, if you were not at the 2021 WJZZ Detroit Legacy Jazz Series last night, you missed a total treat. But I do have good news for you, that you have 5 more Thursdays from 6 to 8 p.m. to check it out at the Hotel St. Regis, Detroit. So, tickets are available on Eventbrite. Do not miss out. Do not miss out. Take out your calendar. Put it on your calendar right now. As a matter of fact, just get your ticket now, and that way you won't have to think about it. Eventbrite does an awesome job of sending you reminders and letting you know it's time for you to go and all of that stuff. So just get your ticket now. You won't be sorry. I'm telling you, it's really good. As a matter of fact, I didn't even know horns could be sexy. And I'm going to tell you what, last night, Mr. Alan Denard, that was a very, very nice show that you missed out on. So, don't let me have to sit here next week and tell you that you missed out on something. Just be there and come say hello, okay? So, the second is that we do have our own, Miss Calibri Harris has an art exhibit going on that starts today at the Umari, I'm going to mess it up, Umari, just go to WJZZ Cool TV page, but the Down and Dirty Talking Art team, Calibri Harris, has an art exhibit starting this evening. So if you want more information, then definitely call WJZZ Cool TV official at gmail.com. Send an email there, and we can get you some information. And then let me see what other announcements I have, because I definitely want to keep you informed. We also have, we have the Vagina Monologues is happening August 22nd at Artist Village in the morning, and August 22nd in the evening at the Nest. Those tickets are also available on Eventbrite. And then we also have our own Sex is Sacred mini festival happening on Sunday, August 29th here in the backyard, and that will be posted on Eventbrite today as well. So get excited. And then for our open box, what I want to do is share with you a product that is called Woman. This is a product called Woman. Can you see it? Okay. And this is a to help. This is for our 50 and older women out there who are ready to get your groove on, but you're experiencing a little situation with estrogen. So with this product is a sexual enhancement product to help you with things like vaginal dryness, as well as libido, anything like that. It's really excellent. So definitely, for more information on this product, text WOMAN to 248-919-5444. It has L-citrulline. I had it written down. L-citrulline, evening primrose, and velvet bean extract. So it's a natural herbal type product to support you. There, you definitely can have vaginal inserts and go with some estrogen therapy if you like. But if that's not your game and you want something a little different, there is help available in the form of a capsule, and I'll just show you what it looks like here. 1 second. Okay, so it is a pill form. So it just looks like this. If you can see that, can you even see that? You probably can't. But it's very natural, and so definitely, again, for more information, go ahead and text WOMAN to 248-919-5444. Okay, so now we are officially into our Ask Me Anything. Oh, wait, no, we're not Ask Me Anything. Okay, well, you can ask me anything. So if you have any questions, you want to interact, engage with me, talk to me, tell me I'm full of crap and what am I talking about, whatever you want to say, feel free to reach out at 313-355-6018, and I'm happy to talk with you. Okay, so the next thing, so we talked about how it was official to have, it was the sex was funding the church with women and just random the single women having to have sex with a stranger as a rite of passage. Okay, so we talked about that. The other thing I wanted to share with you, kind of in our history of sex in the church, is the concept of let me pronounce this right. I want to pronounce this right. Wait a minute. Okay, we'll go to this next one. So this next one is that the way for kingship. So now imagine this, a new king, and we're in, I think this is in scenario, let's see. A young king was expected to show his relationship with the goddess, was strong by bedding the chief priestess. Okay, so anyway, the point is that in prior religious kind of ceremonies and things, it was completely okay, and in fact encouraged, for sex to be kind of an activity that was used to consummate a position of power or different things like that. So again, I'm highlighting these items I'm not saying that we need to go out and start bedding the kings. I'm not saying that we need to go out and have orgies. I'm not saying any of that. If you want to, do your thing. But what I am saying, and the point of this, the point of Sex Appreciation Month, the point of showing these early church activities, is that the beliefs that you have that are limiting beliefs that say, oh, well, I shouldn't masturbate, I shouldn't have sex with strangers. Those behaviors and those beliefs that you have that are based on those behaviors were not because they were bad things to do. That's kind of what we want to get to. We want to get to say, look at your behavior and your activities and the things that you enjoy, not as something that is bad. You want to look at it as something that is you. It is the nature of you. And what I found in my spiritual awakening is you have to learn to love the light side of you and the dark of you, because it's all you. You can't progress and become a completely, fully functional human being in the way that is most aligned with who you are becoming, if you don't have the ability to accept and embrace all of you. So, for example, if you had a belief that said, oh, well, I shouldn't have sex outside of marriage. Okay, well, you have to look at the history of why did we establish that. If we establish it and we say that, oh, well, women were property, or if we say the reason of that is that women were property, the reason for that is that we wanted to limit the behavior of people having sex. None of that is from God saying don't do that. All of that is from man's perspective of what was needed from a societal perspective for whatever purpose, and in most cases in their own personal self-interest. So if you're walking around with a belief that says, oh, I'm a bad person because I looked at somebody and I really wanted to get with them, no, that's a natural desire. And what you do with that, that's your choice. What I want to do is empower you to be in a position of making your own choices and your own decisions about what you do sexually, versus having beliefs and having limiting beliefs and having things in your psyche that were placed there, hundreds of years ago, and transition from pastor to pastor to priest to you, and now you're kind of asleep making decisions based on something that was put on you versus your own choice. So this is what I want to promote, is for you to make those decisions based on choice. You may decide that you don't want to have sex with strangers because they're weird, and you don't really know anything about them, and you just don't feel that. Okay, that's better than making a decision that says, and I really want to have sex with a stranger, but I can't do that because God will not be happy with me and I will go to hell. That's a totally different mindset. And that's the one we want to avoid. We want to make the decision that says, okay, I'm going to do this. Here's the risk. Boop, boop, boop. Here's the benefits. Boop, boop, boop. I think I will do this. Make it your choice, not the choice of history. Okay, I'm off my soapbox. So anyway, the next one I want to share is about this. You'll find this one interesting. Okay. You know how I remember when I was growing up. So I'm 57. So I remember when I was growing up, the whole concept of teen pregnancy it was like there were some girls that were pregnant, but it really wasn't like mainstream. It wasn't like, oh well, it's no big deal. It was still a little bit taboo, and now it's not so much so. Like my son, he's like telling me about all of his friends are all pregnant. COVID didn't help, right? People at home don't have nothing to do. Things happen. But what I find fascinating is that back in the day, it was not unusual for a person who was getting married to already be pregnant. Like I remember, growing up, it was like, oh, is she pregnant already? Oh, she look like she pregnant. She got a bun in the oven. And we were all, people kind of judge, and they, have something to say about it, especially the older ladies have something to say about it. But really, there was a time when it was expected. Why? Another time when it, for reason, because they wanted to make sure that the bloodline could continue, and they wanted to make sure that she could be pregnant and have an heir for the family name, right? So here's another example of a behavior that has been taboo in church, but historically in religious circles, it used to be okay, right? So I think that we have to stop thinking that that all these things are, we're going to sin against God because of these things, and realize the actual source of these guidelines and rules and feelings and perceptions is all based on perception, and it's all based on the context of society, right? So in the context of a time where it was crucial for the bloodline to be continued, it was important for you to have sex before you got married, and in fact it was even better to be pregnant before you got married, because then that proved that you could continue the bloodline, versus today where we say, oh no, abstain, don't have sex until you get married. I mean, it's like and again, I'm not promoting that anyone should go out and do any of this. I'm just saying that it used to be it probably still is taboo, or it's like a goal to stay. It's like, don't have sex outside of marriage. You want to just make sure to be pure and all that. And that sounds really great, and that sounds really exciting. But you know what? All it does is make you hotter, right? So now, if you had an argument to say, don't have sex until you get married, and you said to yourself, I don't want to have sex until I get married because I want it to be the best sex ever. That's one thing, versus I'm not going to have sex until I get married because I want God to be happy with me. Okay? That is the viewpoint that is not necessarily in your best interest. So that's the commentary from High Priestess Makita. Take it for what you want it to be. So then the next item that I wanted to share, let me see what time is it. The next item I wanted to share real quick is about this festival. Wait a minute. Wait. Oh, where is it? I really, it's there's two things. There's this festival Is this it? Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Okay, okay, okay. Okay, I only have a few minutes, but listen. Okay, and do call in 313-355-6018 with any comments or questions. So, um, there was this festival. I want to pronounce this right. The Bacchanals. The Bacchanals. Call in if I didn't pronounce it right and tell me. And it's nowadays it's like considered to be kind of a cheesy Greek festival, but um, in the early incarnations of those celebrations, one, they were only open to women. And in fact, it actually, because they were open to women, it created kind of like a female priesthood almost, okay? And they talk about these big festivals where there, there was rivalry. It was a big party, okay? It was a big party. But the thing that's interesting about this is that what happened is they started to have a lot of more political power within this realm of these festivals. And so the church actually wanted to have them shut down. And so the suppression of these festivals, okay, these festivals where women were, there were primarily women, and there was a priesthood that was being created, and there was power and politics being discussed, that was shut down. When it was suppressed, that is on record as the first religious persecution. First religious persecution. So here we are. Here's a festival. It's all women. And women, okay, I don't have anything against men, but I'm just going to say this for women, is that there's so many things, and I'll put these in the show notes too, because I won't have time to get to them today. But there are so many behaviors that are directly related to the sexual energy and power of women. Because for a long time, women were not, until the invent of birth control, women were not really able to let it fly like they can today. Okay? So what happened is when birth control hit and women began to really kind of get into their groove, then there was a need to kind of suppress that because, women were experiencing their power, and the more you're experiencing your power, you have more energy about it. There were a whole lot of dynamics that made men very uncomfortable. And so what I found with the history is that when men get uncomfortable, then they put some guidelines and rules in place for the women to be suppressed. And it was no different in history with the women. So when you look at, and I'm going to touch on this and then, when we look at the whole concept around witches. Now, before I say this, I'm going to say that there's good and bad in everything. Okay? So there's good witches, there's bad witches, there's demons, there's angels, whatever. There's good and bad in everything. But the driver for things like the Salem witch trials was not that there was something that was so demonic that was going on. Okay? It was because women had a very strong connection to their spiritual selves, their inner divinity. They had a very strong connection to their inner divinity. And when anything when anything makes someone uncomfortable, anything that we don't understand, we demonize and we seek to control and suppress. And so again, with the witches, it was the same thing. It was like, okay, not everyone that was a witch was a problem, but they were, very sexual women, very powerful women. And again, to suppress the women, this is again from a religious perspective, they had to be suppressed. So I think that there's a lot that we could talk about on this subject, but and we could spend a whole year on this topic, to be honest. But what I want to kind of drive home and promote is for you to know that sex in and of itself is not bad. That's my whole point. My whole message for today is that it's not. And so a lot of the beliefs, and so I encourage you to challenge all of the beliefs that you have. I encourage you to challenge anything that you feel ashamed about. Because remember We want you to be able to grow spiritually. And religion is not spirituality. And in fact, I read this morning some statistics that the new religion is no religion. And don't get nervous about that. Don't go, oh my gosh, the end of times is coming. All it simply means is that people are fed up with the incongruency and the hypocrisy in a lot of their religious backgrounds, and they've just decided no more. But guess what? That doesn't mean you stop being a spirit just because you stop being religious or you stop being engaged in religious activities. All it means is you're just not engaged in that tenet and that group of rules and guidelines. But what you are is a spirit, and you always will be a spirit. You're more than just kind of like the flesh and blood that you see. That's not you. And that's the thing that we want to embrace as we go into the rest of Sex Appreciation Month and we talk about all these fun things related to sex. The most important thing you need to know going into the other things is that there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong if you like one thing versus another. There may be beliefs that you have. There may be trauma, like I said earlier, that may cause you to like a thing. Maybe you like whips because you got spanked when you were little. I don't know. But the point is, the fact that you like whips is not a problem. It's not wrong. Embracing that and letting it go, and loving yourself regardless of what you like, or loving yourself in what you like, will free you up so that you can expand and grow in other ways. So I really wanted to make sure that you knew that. So you've been watching Temple of the Divine with High Priestess Makita, here as your guide on the journey to your spirituality, to explore and discover and celebrate the divine in you. And the way we're approaching that, we want you to tune in every Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern on Wjzz Cool TV, the coolest station in the world. Just to kind of have that point where you tune in with your divinity so that you can realize how very special you are. And let us not let something so natural and so beautiful as a sexual experience be demonized, amiss. And I know there's so much going on related to sex and sex trafficking and sexual assault and all these different things. But so it's very easy to get caught up in that and have negative feelings around sex. But I would say to you that having a connection with your sexual self and experiencing sex in a positive way will give you the power that you need to change your life in a positive way. But suppressing it will not. So I hope that this show has been helpful for you. I hope you learned a little bit about the history of some of these viewpoints and as they relate to sex, with the intention of helping you to really just know that there's nothing wrong with you, and there's nothing wrong with anything that you like. And the only thing you need to do is accept that for yourself and allow yourself to begin to explore what you like, what you don't like. And I think that both you and your partner will be very happy that you did. So again, if there's any questions or anything, definitely feel free to call in. I think we have a few minutes left, or maybe not. Maybe it's time. Maybe not. But call in anyway. But I just really want to make sure to encourage you to do that. Now, also, make sure to get your ticket for Sex is Sacred mini festival. It's going to be amazing. We're going to have all of our, all of the topics there. We'll have some vendors there to share with you the different products and things that we highlight here. It'll just be fun. It'll be a lot of fun. We're going to have some benefits for, I think it'll be free for women, and we'll have a ticket price for the men, and it'll just be a ton of fun. So I want to see your face in the place, and please do continue to reach out if you have questions or something came to your mind after this show. Then you can reach out to me at info@templeofdivine.org, info@templeofdivine.org, and I'm happy to respond to you. I answer all inquiries, and in fact, if you want to share topics for the show feel free to do that as well, because I'm always happy to cover these topics for you. We're going to delve into these topics and really help you to get free if that's what you like to do. Again, you've been watching Temple of Divine, coming to you live, streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and other top social media platforms on WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the world. I'll see you next time, right here. Okay. And definitely want to make sure that you keep in mind those events that we have scheduled next Thursday, the 2021 Legacy Jazz Series continuing at the Hotel St. Regis. I'm not sure who is on for next week, but definitely just get your ticket and find out, because the artist, the lineup is right there in Eventbrite when you grab your ticket. We also have our own Calibri Harris at the Umoja studio in Southfield this evening with a show as well around, I can't remember the name of it, but it's around healthy sexual images. And so definitely check that out. And we will definitely look forward to seeing you. So again, anytime you have questions for the show, then feel free to dial in at 313-355-6018. 313-355-6018. And tune in next week on Temple of Divine on WJZZ Cool TV. Feel free to call in with any questions. 313-355-6018. 313-355-6018. I'm happy to answer them for you anytime. One second. Again, if you would like to try the woman product, you can text the word woman to 248-919-5444, 248-919-5444. Okay, I think I'm off the air. And we'll see you next time on Temple of Divine on WJZZ Cool TV, broadcasting live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and other top social media stations or platforms. Bye for now.